Greetings, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to this space and this imperative juncture we're all in historically right now, which no accident, we're all here and tuning into, of course, this video magnetically. So, welcome. We're discussing something really important, and there's a multitude of perspectives as there are in any given moment on every topic, really. So, so we're discussing this actually now because it's so important in these weavings and buildings we're currently experiencing through transition. And of course, depending when you visit this, we're just in the beginning of December 2025, going into 2026, which is a magnitude of a juncture, right? So change, collapse, rebuild, reconfiguration, restructure, uh, transformation, reclamation, emancipation, all the things, right? So we're discussing weaving and building with light, so structure, geometry, light, and we can, dissect and dynamically dialogue with the terminology, but really what we're referencing is building, bridging, anchoring, and weaving with light, which is so essential right now because that's what we are doing in these transitions. Even as, as you could say passively, there's a different perspectives of passive, light is, and light is always just as source is. And source, is innately always pure, divine, and perfect. So it's innately weaving, but there's a conversation we're going to have today that's quite more poignant and specific and directed of building with light as technology. So, and we are technology. So as we're remembering we're technology, we are the technology. We're specifically, precisely tuned and toning and tuning precisely the light that's directing more specifically, more powerfully this juncture of building, weaving, transforming. So, so welcome to the space. Welcome to the field, this harmonic, luminous field. We're weaving here together right now because light is responding to precision, right? So coherence and directed instructions are key, and that's actually one of the speaking of precision, precise callings to create this video and actually several others to come is that I don't actually hear that spoken of very often, is the precision and the direction as the technology to give and tune it with an instruction, with a function, right? It's an instruction. Light is a technology. So frequency transforms, right? Frequency, light has the potentiality to transform anything. Anything into nothing, nothing into something else, something into a completely transfigured, different possibility. And through that, light is integrating and permeating, right? Light as it is permeating. It's permeating through the cells, through the water, through tissues, through fascia. I mean, the etheric realm, plasma, simultaneously utilized plasma, ether, but through the rocks, the crystal, the dew, and the dust. It's permeating, it's integrating. And into all, it's integrating, right? It's permeating through the layers into all. Every given moment, light is, as all is. So conscious direction is precisely key, and precise function is absolutely essential, which is why we're drawing this, shedding a light on this, so to speak, is that because the nature of light is moving consciousness into creation. So that means it's foundational, right? What's foundational mean? Foundational means it's building foundations, which means it's building. And there's this over dialogue, in my perception, anyways, of new light structures, and we're not reinventing a wheel or the wheel, right? It's like we're saying new, and a lot of things that are new, it's new right now, or it's more intricate for what the body or the vessel or the this physical realm has been able to hold and sustain, right? Or that has been arriving in a certain velocity to be implemented in a certain capacity. And we've needed that conscious present awareness to have that capacity to do so. So, to an extent, it makes it new, it new. But light isn't new, right? And the geometric intricacies that are implementing are new, you could say, new configurations, new templates, right, and installations. But the way that we can co-create and implement and utilize the light that is and has always been is still the same. And so foundational is building because we're building now, we're reconfiguring, we're dissolving, but we're also building and rebuilding. We're implementing new structures, meaning that some of these incorrectly geometrically configured structures will be going away because they must. So there will be different building, different systems, different alignments, say for interstellar gateways, etc. Different lineups through these volcanic changes, openings, quakings, changing, gateways to other realms, even. So we can create and we can build with light, and light is instruction. And we are instructing light. We're instructing light through our coherence and our understanding of the it, which is the all. And it's memory. Light is memory, has memory, and it organizes space through geometry, through rhythm, through rhyme, and through coherence. So if we begin there, where it is, where light is instructing, and how we're actually utilizing it in any moment, to weave with light begins in stillness then, doesn't it? We look at the breath, just pause. Slight breathing, presence, right? There's accuracy. Accuracy is required, right? Nice flow, harmonic flow. So many times we think new, or we think intricate, complex. We think complex is intricate, or new is, you know, so much different, right? And new light structures is complex, or, look at some of these geometries, for example, some of the art that I create. Yeah, it's more complex, but that's because the instructions are precise and it requires numerous layers of intricacy and precision for precise instructions, just as like one code, right? One code has a massive amount of energy and information inside. And what is energy? Is information. Information is energy. But when we come into, as we come into stillness and presence, realize the light is right there. And even there's instruction within the breath into coherence and centered direction, the harmonics. We can find ourselves right there. And we can also find the living libraries of light, which are instructions right there, because light codes are technologies, but they're also libraries of information. And so, with that, we can start to bridge what we've been perceived or called or projected sometimes. This mysticized is so different, perhaps, by certain perceptions of bridging that mysticism with technological clarity, knowing that this technology requires, it's not optional, requires precise direction and directed authority, meaning that we're standing in our light, directing our authority while we are directing it, right? And it really overrides some of the passivity, if that's a word, passivity. It is now. The passivity of, allowing things to come through while we are innately light, and light is, and light does, and all is, and all does innately. But with precision, it does so more specifically as we're functioning in our authority, right? So bridging that so-called gap, or bridging that, I almost want to say misperception, but not quite, different perception, right? Of the passivity of bringing a transmission through, perhaps, when there's a much different aspect and infinite potentiality to build and create in such a different way, in such a precise, specific, harmonic way with the divine universal law, with the precision of utilizing light correctly. And yeah, I am saying correctly. It can be different perceptions, right, of how that is. But really to be so in harmonic correctness as technology, as energy, as frequency, and as consciously directing, and this is an example, but any code, it's divine information, it's divine intelligence, it's light, it's luminous light. So it's condensed, right? It's condensed to form. We say form, but it's condensed in a way into a symbology and lines of symbology, but it's also translatable and transcribable. We'll get into that in a moment, but it's basically condensed packets of divine intelligence. Whoa, that's huge, right? Condensed divine intelligence. So we look at code in writing even, right? How we're in form faster than the speed of light, right? And we're in this more dense form. So it's like slowing the velocity to be into a form. This is condensed. Oops. Condensed divine intelligence. These are instructions of light, but it's condensed in a form that has a function that is perceived to look certain ways, but also can be activating in its condensed form to someone that perceives it. But given that function and instruction as directed instantaneously, we'll talk about this in a moment also, but giving it that direction and function instantaneously in your sovereign divine light authority creates it instantly as active, instant as manifest, right? Even if it is so-called condensed form, it's speeding up its velocity into instant uh, potentiality. So I know it sounds interesting, doesn't it? But we're going to dive into that more in just a moment, because basically what we're doing right now is looking at these living libraries, right? They're living libraries held in a way, condensed form, but they're in the field, right? If we're looking at even the ethers, depending on our range of perception with frequencies, we look at, say we're looking at the dew, and you can feel the dew, right? There's libraries within the dew. That's the etheric realm. So there's still codes within these fields, the energy field, the air field, the cloud field, the water, the rain fields, different fields, multidimensional aspects, layers, octaves, filled with information, awaiting instruction, activation, and function. Otherwise, yes, it's harmonically, floating the air, right? It's blowing. But once it has a function, it creates a whole different manifestation experience, conjunction, co-creation, transformation, activation, building, transformations. It's a way more magnified instantaneous co-creation with what's already in the field, awaiting in its isness, right? In its beingness, awaiting an instruction. Just the same way you'd have, somebody standing somewhere, say they're playing a, this is a funny analogy, playing a game, right? And they're on a base, this analogy, they're on a base, they're waiting to go to the next uh, thing, right? I don't know, it's an interesting analogy, but they're waiting to go to the next base, right? So what they need is that activation of the ball being hit so they can have that space, that function, that creation, that movement, that flow. But until there's a direction, somebody's just standing there, right? Energy's standing there. Energy is, all is, source is parallel to how we are. We've always been. We've always been pure, innate, divine, perfect. Then we come into this form on earth to have these ranges of experience. To why? To evolve, to expand, to teach, to grow, all the things. And to do that is the multitude of range. Well, you have that multitude of range of function, emotion, different, say, perception, activation, triggers, all the range of those things is creating something, right? Different functions to catalyze, to activate, to evolve into and out of. And without that, something is, right? Before you came here, you were slash are where you were slash are, but pure and divine and perfect, there's nothing to pure, divinely perfect because you are. So as things are shifting and changing in action through function and activation, then it changes, right? Then there's change, then there's transformation, which is why we're all here. Varying roles and missions to help in this transformation and building, which we are weaving and building with light as light. So we look at light, if we emit as light, we're communicating, right? Light is communicating multidimensionally, layers and layers of octaves, planes with and without form. So multidimensionally, all at the same time. So how is it doing that when there is a form, for example? Is that through the form, this form for specific, precise example here is nervous system. Light is communicating through the nervous system multidimensionally, right? Through field awareness, which would be a sensation. How are we feeling through the field what that light is communicating multidimensionally? Say, through the energy, through the sensation, through the experience. What is the field of our energy interacting with other energy? Experiencing is felt through the sensation. So, and through those sensations comes the direct knowing. That's the direct knowing through the intuitive awareness of what is that feeling? What is that reflecting? What is that sensation innately, telling me, communicating with me through the field of what that light is expressing, what it's saying, what its dynamic function is intended to do, or sometimes not intended to do, but is doing that through its frequency emanation, right? So we're looking now at the body being physical density, being physical matter in this experience with light communicating multidimensionally through all these different systems, nervous, autonomic, the brain, the perceptions through the brain, vast and varied, moment to moment, through varied base staff of experiences, right? And so we look at the body as um, a part of our tool that we're here, right? Our sacred vessel. But beyond that, the conscious, direct utilization of our tool as part of the technology we are. We could say we're waiting for, and I've heard this many times, waiting for off-planet technology. We are the off-planet technology. We are the technology. Light is the technology, yes. The functionality, the instructions is technology, yes. But we are the technology, and most of us are from other systems, right? Or a range of other systems, DNA communication of a multitude of different systems, which means that we are the technology in form. So our body and has to go hand in hand. No pun intended, has to go hand in hand. The body and conscious direct utilization of and as the light in a body is that we are a receiver and a transmitter, right? We're a receiver and transmitter of light. We're a receiver and transmitter of frequency, sound, energy, light, information, tones, sounds, vibration, and whether all of this is necessarily heard, seen, sensorily known by, all or any particular moment, we still are innately doing that because we are that. We are off planet technology in form on the celestial being of Earth at this time, tuned to the harmonics of whatever tone and tune and octave we're tuned into at any given moment. So we're a receiver and transmitter. However, beyond that, we're also a translator, right? We're a translator, we're a decoder, and a transcriber. So, in addition to that, we're translating, right? We're receiving light, we're translating it into action, into other forms. We're translating it as perhaps we're transforming it. We're translating it as we're communicating it with words, with sounds, with tones, with our vibration, our emanation. We're translating it. In addition to that, we're decoding it. We're decoders. So we're decoding it, perhaps looking for definition of it, whatever that it is, the holography and the technology. We're looking to make sensical description of it, whether in function by our action or to communicate it with words to others. So we're decoding by our nature, decoding to understand more specifically. And as we're doing that, we're also transcribing. We're transcribing the information, meaning that we're transcribing it. So if we look at light communicating multidimensionally through, it's communicating multidimensionally through the physicality, which is our body. It's our vessel, it's our system, it's our cells. It's through our hair, our tissues. It's communicating through everything and beyond. Beyond that, of course, we could look around and see it's communicating through the air, through the dew, through the clouds. Parallel to that would be our nervous system, right? Our nervous system, our autonomic system, communicating through our field awareness, our energy field, our energy body, through our sensations in the organs, the tissues, the nervous system, especially sensation, the sacral and the solar absorption, a solar rate of absorption, if you want to say it that way, through the nervous systems, through field awareness and sensation. And we get that, we receive that through direct knowing, through those sensation, whether it's constriction, contraction, varying different sensations, chills, body yeah, where your pores rise. That's chills, yeah. The body, right? Okay, so if we look at that, beyond that, of all the explanations and the examples, is the body is the body is light, even though it's a density, the body and conscious direct utilization of and as the light that we are through the body and in the body, all the way in the body, which is very important to notate. We ascend, remember, reascend, all these terminologies, but we are accelerating, evolving, and remembering we already know what we already know as ancient beings of pure divine luminous perfection. We remember that and implement that through the body, through the light and our light body. But in that, we are receivers, right? We're receivers and transmitters. We're receiving information through light as light, receiving, anchoring light. We're transmitting as transmitters, transmitting light into light, transcribing light as light. As a translator, we're translating, we're decoding, we're recoding, we're overriding through the transmission, the receiving, and the transcribing. We're decoding, and we're also, I mean, look at how complex slash intricate every moment is. Beyond that, we're installing, right? We're installing, we're installers, installing light. We're integrating light through every pore, through every cell, through every membrane. We're integrating, integrating all of our facets and filaments and information and codes. We're integrating that and installing it and instating it. We're instating it where we're actually calibrating it into the physical, bringing it in the vessel, all the way in through the cells, into the feet, into every breath and walk. So we are receivers, transmitters, translators, decoders, transcribers, installers. This is all hopefully with conscious present awareness, installers, integrators, instators, but beyond that also we're anchors, we're directors, and we're creators because, and in addition to directors and creators, utilizing conscious precision is prime as principle, meaning that it's prime principle to know and consciously utilize direct, specific precision because of all that was just stated, of all that we are, which is much even beyond that. Those are terms, but that's some of what light is doing and being through our awareness and our prime pillar as prime principal example of creation, activation, conscious co-creation and utilization, usage. We are doing that, right? We're doing all of that, and how we're doing it and at what amplitude and what acceleration and what transformation we can create really depends on that every moment of us exercising and implementing our authority as divine beings of light, doing set above, right? Conscious precision required. Prime is principle because we are prime points of light. So, what does that mean? It means a lot. That means that light organizes and weaves where, when, how, and at what amplitude, and what instantaneous manifestation, when and as there is coherence directed. That's huge. Let me breathe that for a moment and say that again. Isn't that huge? Do you feel that? Breathe that power. Conscious co-creators, divine authority, sovereign beings. Right? Let's say that again now. Light is you as light, which is divine conscious technology, organizes and weaves, and beyond that builds, which is we're discussing rebuilding, reclamation, divine purity, and statement in the declaration. That's fun. In the Declaration of the Emancipation Proclamation happening now in the instatement, light is organizing and weaving and building where and when there is coherence and as directed. Conscious presence, directed, precise, precision, precision prime principle. What does that mean? We're going to need to eventually, or now, into some degree, filter out and delete and override the passive ideology, right? These passive ideologies, and now this applies to a certain extent, okay? Passive ideology of when you hear those references to I'm bringing something through, right? Or this is a transmission I'm bringing through, but there's no actual total awareness, or to what extent there's an awareness of what is that you're bringing through, from where, what is it, why, what's its purpose, and what is its function. Now, we're going to need to get it together as divine sovereign beings, and I'm saying this lightly to put a pun in a way, is that the passive ideology doesn't work. It's light is, yes. Light always is. Source always is, and it's always divine and perfect. So what's coming through is innately coming through, yes. However, we are building now, and we are building and weaving with precision and divine righteousness and override to create a new world. So we're going to need to dissolve this passivity and become conscious co-creators of holographic technology, light, code with precision and direction as multidimensional architecture. Why? You say, what? Why? What's going on? We need to do something different? Yes, we're transforming. So we are the technology. Light is the technology, which means that, one example, what's the science of the subtle? What is holographic principle? What are all these things? You know what? These aren't complex things, holographic technology, because we are the technology. So if we look at the subtleties of light and the power and the magnitude, we'll find that this holographic principle applies to the whole, which means that the whole is encoded in every geometrical part and particle, which means you're not externally accessing anything, right? You're not accessing something external. You know, these things, you're not going out really and looking for any of it. You are remembering, one example, you are remembering how to interface with the geometry that is creation and technology, and you as the co-creation, as conscious divine sovereign directors and creators of your world. Breathe out. You're remembering how to interface with the geometry that is creation, and you choosing to divinely, precisely direct the light with your thought is the co-creation. So we can look at that also as weaving and expanding with coherence, as light and with light. We are that. So we're basically weaving with direction, right? We're building with direction, which would be how anyone would be building, right? You would have building plans. If you were going to build something, you'd probably have blueprints, would be your plans. So we look at holographic light structures, we look at geometries. Crystalline blueprints is the instructions. So what the instruction is the function. Where is the plumbing going? How is it installing? How big will it be? Where is it going? How deep will it be? How is that aligning to the other structures? And it all starts to make simpler, divine, intricate sense, because they are intricate, but they're not complex. Architectures are stabilizing now and building, for that matter, into expanded evolved states, which means these new light structures, you keep hearing, what does this new light structure mean? It's expanded state, evolved state of being, meaning evolved, higher octave, pure tone, pure frequency, vaster potentiality. So if we're looking at new light codes, tones, different tones, higher octaves, pure tones, able to be implemented and built and integrated, as I was stating before, into as transcribers, anchors, builders. There must be that prime foundation for building into these expanded and evolved states, which means higher awareness, conscious presence, conscious awareness, and allowing multidimensional and beyond that too is multiversal embodiment and holographic expansion. Holographic expansion, we look at everything as geometry. We're looking at, a cell magnified into the whole, right? Going back to holography and holographic, how everything is part of a whole. We're all part of a unified one whole. We look at expanding our bandwidth, our frequencies, and our multidimensionality is actually expanding exponentially behind or beyond the microcosm into the macro, which goes beyond multidimensional. It goes into multiversal. So more than one universe, right? There's not just one universe. So we have multiple dimensions beyond form, you know, which is blowing the 13 dimension out of the water, meaning that there's much vastly beyond these dimensional octaves and planes beyond the form, and they don't have numbers. So we get beyond that even, beyond, beyond the beyond is multiversal, which is infinity. So our precision as we're deciding and choosing as creators, this precision of perception is so important, and so is the precision of the direction, because that functionality goes beyond the multidimensional. It goes beyond, of course, beyond the body, but beyond this dimension. Beyond multidimensionality goes into multiversal, beyond the multiverse. You hear people saying, I thank the universe, or the universe this, beyond, right? Expanded perception to continue to evolve and accelerate into these multiversal, varying octaves beyond form, time, and space, these, containers and limitations. We need to begin to fine tune further our instrument. And what that means is our resonance chamber, our frequency tool, our technology, which is us, which includes our geometry, right? Our geometrical body, holography. I like that word. Beyond our holography, expanded exponentially means that our geometry and our geometrical body and our blueprint is expanded, meaning that it's active and it's activated, so that that interplay between what is, in the experience of the physical, is interplaying to its fullest potential in its own expansion, but how it's interplaying and interweaving and building with all else is expanded and expanding all else through the innate interconnection and expansion of it being evolved in its expression, right? So fine-tuning our instrument is increasing the velocity, the frequency, and the vibration, and also expanding our perception. One of the many intentions of this video and many others where we're discussing this is because let's expand our perceptions beyond what's been said, what seems to be known or said and known, beyond sensitivity beyond psionic abilities, which, is a reference to, like, say, knowingness, telepathic knowingness, beyond the psionic abilities of knowingness, expanding the perception into that multiversal where we can really perceive at a wider gaze through the senses, through neutral observation, which is awareness. Neutral observation is neutrality, observing what is, and not necessarily being on all these octaves and channels per se, or different planes of awareness, fine tuned to certain precise precision, conscious directed choice points every moment. Where are you tuned in your experience as a neutral observer and witness, and what is magnetizing in that experience in this? And if you're here, that's a great question to find out, right? If you're here in this video, because we are expanding perceptibility through expanding of our ranges of what are we perceiving right now, and how are we in accuracy. Yeah, let's say it that way. How in accuracy are our sensations? Are our sensations accurate? How are we perceiving the sensations we're having? Say senses, sensory, or expanded sensory perceptions as we are opening our telepathy is another term, in a way, to psionics, but as we're expanding our inner seeing and our perceptibility on all these waves and octaves, what are those sensations and how are we fine tuning and refining our directions, our direction of the light or of the thought, and the directive, the commands and the knowingness, say the knowingness through the sensation. What are we commanding from there in that moment? What are we sensing in that moment, and how are we choosing to direct that energy? Are we? That's a good question. Are we? Because light is communicating through subtle pressure, right? It's subtle pressure points through our pillars. And when I'm saying that, I mean, look at, for example, you go somewhere, you feel constriction, perhaps, certain energies, you feel pressure, constriction, retraction, expansion, hopefully expansion, but your sensations will be speaking to you subtly, based off of the sensation of your physical technology, your body, your vessel, on what it is that you are perceiving as you're expanding, even opening your sensations to other possibilities. Those feelings, sensings, and knowings may be different, right? Or chances are they are. Because through the filaments, light filaments, and the form being in a form, experiencing other forms and filaments, we're experiencing what? Tones, you know, sounds, tones, ranges, vibrations, velocity, different energy movements, shifts, and change, but we're also experiencing or choosing to experience silence and breath, which is also light and geometry, right? Silence and breath is also geometry. If we look at our breath in any given moment, right now, let's take a breath. There's geometry in the breath. Do you feel it? Get into an exercise shortly as well for the breath and the geometry sensing exercise. However, the light sensations of the light expressing as light is also experienced through song and word, right? Many, many ways. We're just discussing a few of them to open the possibility, but we look at song, word, and activated language. And activated language is much different than language, right? We can say words, and I'm sure many of you hear words all day long. Words, people are using lots of words, but they don't have necessarily frequency or velocity or a certain energy within them until or unless they're activated words with a certain velocity, vibration, frequency within them. So there's a big difference between all of these things we're discussing, having, conscious direction, function, activation, how that will manifest, and how swiftly, just as parallel as language, words, and being activated language. You want to say your activated symbology, activated light, much different, completely different. Or passivity, it was bringing something through, not the same experience as activated, functional, functioning, precise, directional, with direction, precision, and in certain precise locations. Beyond that, how that time and space, multidimensional, multiversal, will be so in the ripple, instantaneous. So, alongside that, I had to discuss today. So important, isn't it? As we choose further fine tune being builders that we are, weavers, builders of light, stewards, co-creators. Let's remember what we already know, sounds funny, but that's what we're basically doing, remembering what we already know. And it's not a new wheel we're learning. Nobody's inventing this wheel, but the more precise remembrance of it and utilization of our technology as this, that we are, will be that much more profound. So let's get into mudras as I'm watching my hands move. Mudra, what are mudras with the light? That's hand movements essentially, right? So what do mudras do? It's a term people use. Mudras, again, when activated on a certain precise velocity and vibration and directed function, they can assist the energy information. Energy is information, right? So they're synonymous in this discussion. So what we can do with activated, amplified, intentional, directed mudras is move the energy, anchor it, transcribe it, decode it, recode it, all the things we discussed earlier, much more, with much more velocity, intensity, through utilizing that as another component of the direction, right? It's the function, it's the direction, it's the velocity, it's the intention of how fast, how swift, what is the, energy to do, right? To do, right? So active, much different than mudras that are mudraing, mudraing without the activation. So um, the clearer the instrument, right? The clearer the instrument, the clearer the body, physical body, clearer the field, clearer equaling coherence. Means that coherence equals instant manifestation. What does that mean? And clearer the instrument, clearer meaning coherence means instant manifestation. So, many people are saying different things now in this now we're in, that they had this thought and then all of a sudden, there it is. And it's like a surprise. But really, it's not a surprise because that's really the truth of how that all works, is that you think the thought is the instantaneous knowingness of that direction. In that thought direction form becomes manifest. It's that simple. So then you move on to the next thing, right? So in coherence, it's instantaneously arriving. The possibility, if you want to say it that way, if it's not manifesting, would be it maybe not be the thing. It's for whatever the vast array of reasons why it doesn't, of the why it's not the thing, but it's also the coherence. Is it coherent in its intention and direction? If not, it'll just fizzle away. So let's emphasize here the importance of raising the sensitivity, raising the perceptibility, raising the perception, meaning that raising the sensitivity and the sensation through expanding the perception, but, however, without the overwhelm, meaning without the absorption. I'm not talking about overly empathetic, right? Where you're sensing everything and having oversensitivity, not the overwhelm, not the absorbing other people's energies and things, but raising the sensitivity through expanded psionically expanding perceptibility without the absorption because you're in conscious direction and refining frequency of what you're transmitting, receiving. So there's not that extra absorption, right? You see what I mean there? There's a complete difference. It's totally different energy. So if we look at attunement now, beyond refining, fine tuning, look at attunement. What is attunement? When we talk about attunement, right? And a lot of the frequency videos, the tones and things offer potentiality or do innately a tuning of some type. Now, that's direct experience, tuning, direct, conscious, physical experience of light intelligence. And what does that mean? It's a direct experience of and through the vessel of the light technology and experience. And I'm going to just offer a brief, short experiential of that. Now, this isn't a frequency transmission. Well, it is, but it's not. It is, but in a different kind of way now. Short experiential alignment, which is what a tuning is, right? It's an alignment or a realignment. And what this is for is where we're going to begin actually is an invitation to sensing, right? Invite within yourself. I'm inviting you also an inward listening to your own self, to your own cells, your systems, your tissues, your muscles, your fascia, to your nervous system. Just inward listening, right? Just check in, breathe, feel. Breathe through your heart, all the way through to your feet. Just inwardly listen to your body, sensations, any constriction, contraction. Don't define it, don't point it out, just feel, just listen. Listen. This is not a visualization exercise. Okay, no visualization required. Just breathing, just sensing geometries. Through the breath now, sense the geometries when you breathe in. What shape does that make? Breathe out. What shape does that make? Just sense the shape. Sense the color, the shape, how the shape and the colors change as you breathe out. No visualizing, just notice geometry, breath. Feel the geometries of your breath. As you're breathing in and out and feeling the geometries, the colors, the holographics, being geometry, expanded geometry, perhaps templates are moving, shifting, changing, moving, shifting through the breath. Just sense it. Now notice while you're sensing, where in there, in that breath with the shapes, where is light? Where is light meeting form in spaces between the shapes? Where is light meeting form in the spaces in between the shapes? You sense the shapes. And you sense the movement of the shapes. Where is the light moving through the shapes? What shape is the light moving into and out of? What shape is the expansion of the shape between the shapes made through the breath? Where in those shapes, in that light, where the stillness is organizing sensation? Because the stillness of being and breathing is organizing. It's actually organizing the sensation that's being felt. It's organizing through the shapes of the shapes, into the shapes, forming through the shapes, into and out of the breath of the shapes. It's forming organizational shapes, transforming into shapes, interplaying with other shapes. Do you feel that? Do you feel the shapes between the exhalation? Okay. Just sense the shapes. No visualization, just sense them. Just sense them. Be there, right? Allow. In these moments, allow your systems, your nervous system, your vagus, your hormonal, your endocrine system, your digestive system, right? Allow your energies to self-adjust through shapes, through the divine perfect shapes. So nice. The light, pure perfection of the cellular reconstruction. Just feel that. Self-adjustment, your body knows how to integrate and anchor, reconfigure the light, right? Feel that right there. Feel that? You innately know how to interface. Sounds complex saying, these terms we hear, brain, heart interface, and holography. What is that? How do I do that? Do. But you innately know how to interface. You're in a physical body as light. You're interfacing all the time, right? So you innately know how to co-create. But what we're discussing here beyond is that you are the light weaving through itself as itself. Through the infinity of the coherent field, which means that through the infinity of the coherent field, you are the shapes between the shapes, forming the shapes of the infinite all into the unified tapestry, directed with your sovereign divine authority into and as all, right? Power right there, conscious directive, pure tone. Intention power, though, instant manifest through the field of coherent quantum exchange, directing light, creating reality as technology, as encoded light holography, as technology. Light responds to precision and intention, and also coherence. We keep saying that. What does that mean? It's clarity of intention. And directed light creates and builds structures. And we are doing that right now, building a new world, building a new earth. So it's imperative that we wield and weave with light, including, and of course not limited to any of those, but including where, how, and when, and why, and at what velocity, angle, and intentionality are we placing our intention and attention, which includes, and as an aside, in addition to, includes responsibility, of course, integrity and ethics, which are inherent, you could say, which would be innately known, but are they returning now? They are. Responsibility, integrity, and ethics. The inheritance and inherent knownness is being remembered now, right? Sovereign, divine guardianship, returning to roles as, now we're saying humanity's roles, but of course it's much beyond. Intergalactically, the ancient weavers have returned, right? Meaning that humanity are here now as ancient weavers returning to do just this. Weave and build with light. Weave and co-create with light as light into divine right, reclamation, proclamation, and right order, but also in addition to beyond the but syntax. Uh, in planetary and galactic context, right? We're going into context and conversation as we're saying humanity and beyond. In planetary and galactic context, also, we're all field weavers. Field weavers, light weavers, transformers, energy transformers, sound healers, sound weavers, wielders, sound and light creators, builders, translators, transcribers of intelligence, divine intelligence and light into matter, which is here on celestial earth, matter, physicality. We're in bodies, but also the physicality of crystals, rocks, geology, clouds, dew, etheric earth, dust, dew, beyond, right? Everything in the physicality. We are transcribers, translators, installers, anchors, and much beyond, so much more we mentioned earlier, of divine intelligence into matter. So, as tech support, technology, we are technology. We look at tech support as kind of an aside, funny joke, but not because it's serious, like codes are us. We are that. So, we must have collective, individual, we begin inside, but collective coherence and expansion with direction, required, not optional. Multidimensional unification is happening now, right? And we can consciously direct that, consciously direct our own multidimensional unification, integration of our facets, wherever they are. And as we're doing that, we're dissolving this before, right? As we're harmonizing, neutralizing, unifying, we're dissolving this whatever before parallels, which isn't before, but sometimes referenced, let's say, past life, but parallel life before is other parallel experiences coming to be felt, seen, heard, known, to be unified, cleared. Multidimensionally, we're bringing that right here, right now, which is dissolving this parallel and simultaneously reconfiguring, reinstating, reclamating, and emancipating this now, which is also powerfully pivoting and accelerating this so-called future, which we're also building and weaving with light. Do you see how everything is woven together as technology through light, as light? In this massive transformation time of no time, which is now. So we get beyond that, and there's of course much we're going to discuss as we go. This is a overview, if you can believe that. This is an overview of the massive transformation we're in as light, that another one of the facets of my exploration and offering is soul language, right? Because what is soul language in my perception, beyond, of course, everyone's unique capacity and ability of soul language, is light, but it's also a galactic interface because it's bringing all of your galactic archives activated into one harmonic conversation that's pure tone communication through and to and for with all, and includes your inner genetic libraries, which are your archives. So you have all the information, you have the alphabet, if there were such thing. You know, you have all of the code, decode, anchor, installation, all the instruction manuals are right here within your inner archive. So through this transformation, we're also in our own waves and declarations, we're reinstating those things, right? We're activating our soul language, learning how do we implement that light that we are, that we've been holding through and carrying through multitudes of experiences, different bodies, lifetimes, parallel lifetime, to be here now where we've prepared this whole while for. And we're awakening these innate communications through our own encoded light systems. We have all the information. We have all the information. We're decoding it. Oops. We're decoding it, we're writing it, we're installing it, we're transcribing it, we're communicating it to each other in various ways, even with our emanation as we're standing here vibrating, as communicating an emanation, it's codes. You know, it's illumination, it's energy, it's frequency. What does it feel like? I mean, to some people, maybe they'll look like certain things, right? The functional interface, functional being with direction and intentionality, the interface in the physicality could appear and does to varying waves as geometry, right? Tone, movement, spatial. I'm gonna say spatial, but through time and space, it's knowingness. So, like, say through movement, you're feeling spatial knowing, feeling sensation. You're feeling the interplay and the exchange, the energy exchange of harmonics. It's a dance. It's talking. It's expressing. It's feeling. It's sensing. It's saying. It's telling. It's talking, you know, and all the things all at once. So the spatial knowing is, as light is, known, and it's evolving as we're choosing, as we're choosing in every moment to turn our own lights on. More specifically, we're receiving more information, which is energy. So we take that a step further. We look at telepathy, right? This term telepathy, which is vastly beyond really this term, just as light language, vastly beyond this terminology. People have been utilizing light language or telepathy as innate communication, pure communication, knowingness through the geometry, through the holography, through the instantaneous, you want to say, dialing of the coordinate of the dimensional octave, to which who is the what and the where and the why and all the information sequences to be translated, transcribed, decoded, sent, unraveled, unwrapped, known and unknown. saying known and unknown, but whatever it is, the translation of the telepathy of the message sent is tuned to that harmonic wavelength. So it's innately and transparently, instantaneously communicated, received, and then the conversation is opened, right? So um, may sound slightly, it doesn't feel complex to me when I describe it that way, but I'm actually giving it another perspective as I'm describing it because I don't think I've ever heard it described quite that way. But I sense it much different. So we'll get into that more further, perhaps in another video. However, we look at natural harmonic exchanges, right? Like telepathy is what we know it as, which is a transitionary term to knowingness and communication, instant communication. So, what is that really is harmonic exchanges that are instantaneous, coherent to communicate correctly, right? So they have flow, it has to be harmonic flow on the same radio frequency dial, the same bandwidth, flow and understanding to be heard, to be felt, to be seen, to be known. So, let's just take a moment to actually talk about this through a drawing for just a moment. If we look at light, for example, the different drawing, but the translation felt, sensed, known, received, and how it be received will be completely individual based off the person. We'll describe that and talk more about this in another different video, I feel like, as well. But if we get into integration now, just deeper and further into telepathy, integrating light, integrating light, which we are, right? Every moment we're integrating light, we're breathing light, we are light, we're being in our being, we're light, we're being light. We're stabilizing, we're anchoring the new architecture, which is integration. It's integrating and stabilizing the light that we are. So the imperative thing too in these knowingnesses, continued exploration, acceleration knowingnesses, is to ensure embodiment, which essentially means ensure it's bringing that light, conscious, present, holographic, technological information. You could say codes, but it's beyond that. It's bringing all of the light that is fully functional, integrating, installating, bringing that all the way through this physicality, this realm, this density, this body, all the way through into the toes, into the earth, into the core, all the way through all of the cellular structures, ensuring embodiment and coherent harmonics, which is harmonic, right? So if we're coherent, there's harmony, right? There's balance, there's ebb, there's flow. And we know when there's not. When it's decoherent, it's felt, it's known. Coherence is felt, it's known, it's fluid, it's flow, it's fluid, it's flow, right? It's fluid, flow, flow, fluid. You don't feel pause, right? It just flows. So integration then is structural, building, integration, integrating light, integrating new light structures, integrating in light, synonymous is structural because it's functional and it's building structures. So we're bringing and bridging light through the structural, through our intentioned functionality, through the direction and the function, through what we're designing and intending and activating it to do, through the physicality, is structured matter then. It's bringing structured matter through the density, right? And we're bringing light through the density all the time. When you look at our shared being, our conversation right here, we're bringing light through this density because light is permeating through our cells, through our tissue, through our fascia and our brain and systems, our organs, our tissues, our cellular systems, endocrine, digestive systems, through our filaments, through our plasma, our blood, our DNA conversations, our chromosomes, everything is fluid and movement and alive with liquid coded light, has instructions within a compound. You look at DNA, how long, how huge DNA is, and how even more so parallel, compact. All the information within it, right? All of the information within it, signs of integration and evolution and expansion with the magnitude of what light is we know it through the clarity that's felt, right? Through our evolution, through the coherence that's felt in every moment, through the clarity of, say, synchronicity. That's a big one. Synchronicity is a profound confirmation of coherence, clarity, instant manifestation through grounded stillness is evolution, expansion. It's where everything can ground through is stillness. And that can be, having a conversation, but in stillness, energy is still grounding in, light is still grounding in. Configurations, installations still are integrating and grounding in, but the stillness through that vessel and the physicality is so much more profound, right? So we look at subtle confidence as another one. Having confidence and knowingness of that, knowing the sovereign divinity, knowing the direction. And the directability is confidence and knowing of that flow and the allowance of, I look at surrender, surrendering to the power of the knowingness of the mission, being in flow and presence. It's huge. Bringing light through the density, being in flow and allowing, still bringing that light. So, with that is precision, right? Comes precision through, we could say pace, precision through grace and pace. Precision in taking a drink through the grace, the pace. We're discussing many important things today. We'll dive more into this as well. This is a beginning point, of course, but let's look at, yeah, this sounds really nice. Pace and grace. Divine time, right? That's a huge parallel. Flow, allowance, pace, grace, and divine time. That means soul evolution time, the evolvingness of the soul, not comparison to others, but what is your soul's divine time, divine mission, and divine flowering, right? Like we allow for that higher wisdom and inner knowingness to innately know that it is, everything is, all is. And you have the experience to allow that soul divine bloom to be that. So that is direction in motion, but also it's direction in flowing, flowing with what is feeling to be true in its own evolutionary time, not standing over a flower commanding it to bloom, right? It'll bloom as it blooms, as the soul blooms, as its mission is unique to each. So I believe that would be a great point to begin to summarize. We've been we've been talking for a little while. We'll come back into many of these in their own expansion and diving into further expansion as well. But The overall direction and intention summary with clarity is, of course, acknowledging that intelligence is, right? Light is, source creation is, has always been, as it is, right? An intelligence, divine intelligence is always present, is. And divine intelligence is. So light will and does eternally continue to organize, right? Through coherence, organize, infinitely eternal. After any contact, right? Any physicality, uh, interdimensionality, you want to say multidimensionality, multiversally, light is continuing to be that which it is. So this invitation through this declaration, if you will, of this discussion is that the core thread to weave through the building, reweaving, and building and transformation we're in right now is that the core thread to return to in any given moment is to return to or maintain and, not or, core message, like coherence, maintain as much as possible in these transitions, maintain coherence because the functioning and the direction of the light as an isness of intelligent, conscious technology. Light is, you are incoherence is manifestation in motion, instantaneous flowation, if that's a word. It's not. So what? Precision is required for optimum functionality. Core thread, another one. Thread, weaving, thread, coherence, luminosity, thread. Precision required for optimum functionality. What does that mean? Thought, simple way to look at it in summation, I promise. I promise. It's so important, but it's also not as complex as I feel it's been sometimes misperceived. And the simpler grace and ease we have to understanding the truth of our being, the more fun and joy and love and expansion we can have more fluidly, right? So here's the goal. Look at thought briefly. Thought. What is thought? It's a word. Okay. We have a thought, word. So when we look at precision, that thought, that word is declared, whether it's a word or code or however you want to say it, right? So we have the thought and the word. Okay. From that thought and that word creates light with direction, with function, because that thought has an intention. So that's the function. And that's the direction, right? Thought and word into light with direction and function. Okay. It's not really step two, but just flowing it simply. Okay. Now, what we're doing, thought, word, light, direction, function, precision, please. Through this physical body is we're anchoring and installing it, right? So we're building. So this is what it means simply to build with light is we're having a thought, we create a thought with precision through light and direction and function. Through the body, it's anchored and integrated and we build. Now, what that also means is through the thought and the light into the physicality anchored is that manifestation and that geometry, the holography is the interface. The manifestation happens through the so-called interfacing, we're calling it that. That's basically the interplay of the thought coming as, the thought light with direction coming into the physicality. The interface is the two meeting each other into the manifestation. It's simplicity as it's responding to coherence. It's innately creating and manifesting instantly, right? So if we listen deeply and just say that really simply, right? We can just say that really simple. Listen very deep to the shape of that light as thought. Okay, we have the thought, the word, thought word as light. Create structure in its anchoring. Manifestation. Instant. On to the next, right? It really is instantaneous. So we listen deeply as conscious co-creators, present and aware of our choices in any moment, to act precisely and responsibly. And precisely and responsibly. I said that twice. But we will close now. In deep gratitude for exploring and expanding with this. It's so important to build with light, to weave with light. We're all doing that in every moment as we understand the simplicity of that, which we are light, and how we are integrating, transcribing, and decoding, coding, transmitting with and as the light. As this off-planet technology, we are encoded galactically to whatever extent and array that we are conjunctionally. I give so much gratitude for you exploring, expanding here with a vastly, I say unique perspective, but I don't actually know of anyone necessarily mentioning it that quite this way. So I hope you found it interesting, expansive, definitely expansive to find that cool creative faculty that is you as light. Because really, once you've thought it, as you've thought the word as the light, it's already done. It's done. It's finished. It is. You go on to the next. Just think of how efficient we can co-create with light as sovereign divine beings, embracing, embodying, and reclaiming our cosmic destinies, thinking it, creating it, being it, and continuously directing with right order, into right order as we are. So feel free to share this with others you may find, or that may find, and you may find, will find this expansive and interesting. And leave a comment how you've experienced it. And we'll continue to expand further on this as I know so much more to explore. We're going to dive into some different decoding exercises for those that are interested as well. Through the varying rates of processes as light is, right? Consciously directed, present, performing, installing, anchoring, lots of different functionalities through the building and weaving. So we're going to just explore that because as we thought it, so it's done. Now that we're on to the next, what's next, right? What will we weave today? Thank you so much for tuning in. Wishing you so much alignment, love, grace. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought, what you felt, what you know, what you remembered that you already know. And I'll see you soon. Till next time. In love.